Step back in time with me to the glitz and glamour of Hollywood's golden age, a world where silent film stars ruled the silver screen, their faces beaming with the timeless charisma. Among them, one man stood larger than life, both figuratively and literally. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. Beloved for his comedic genius, Arbuckle was a pioneer who could make audiences roar with laughter without ever saying a word. But behind the spotlight and the slapstick was a tragic tale of ambition, scandal, and redemption. How did one of Hollywood's brightest stars go from adored icon to a symbol of infamy almost overnight? What really happened that fateful night in 1921 when a party spiraled into chaos, shattering lives and careers? And why, even after a century, does Roscoe Arbuckle's name still provoke such intense curiosity? Join me as we peel back the layers of a story that's as tragic as it is fascinating. A story of fame, downfall, and the enduring legacy of a man who shaped comedy, but whose life was forever marred by a scandal he may not have deserved. This is Beneath the Shadows, and today we step into the silent, yet deafeningly loud world of Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. Welcome to Beneath the Shadows, where we dive into the untold stories, mysteries, and forgotten moments of history. I'm your host, Travis Fenn, and I'm thrilled to have you here with me for today's episode. Before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. Your support means everything, and it's because of listeners like you that this podcast continues to grow. If you enjoy what you hear today, please take a moment to leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it may be. It really helps get the word out to more people who love these stories as much as you do. So thank you for doing that. And don't forget to follow or subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. You can also connect with us on Instagram or Patreon, where we share even more content and behind-the-scenes updates. But for now, let's shimmy into the shadows and uncover the story of Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle, a comedy legend whose life was marked by laughter, controversy, and a legacy that still echoes through Hollywood's history. The wind swept across the plains of Smith Center, Kansas on March 24, 1887, as Roscoe "Conkling" Arbuckle entered the world. And I was curious as to the name Smith Center, so I looked it up. Smith Center was founded in 1871. The first post office in Smith Center was established in January of 1873. Like Smith County, Smith Center was named for Major J. Nelson Smith of the 2nd Colorado Cavalry, a pre-war native of Elwood, Kansas, who died leading his regiment on October 21, 1864, at the Battle of the Little Blue River, a battle that occurred during the Civil War and ended with a Confederate victory. So Roscoe's arrival was anything but celebrated by his father, William Goodrich Arbuckle, a man embittered by poverty and prone to cruelty. Roscoe's mother, Molly. I have Molly on here. Some places say Mary. It might have been Mary and she went by Molly. I'm not 100% sure. I was trying to find something. The Find a Grave is Mary. A ton of articles say Molly. Some of them say that it was Mary with the nickname. Like I said, it could be one or the other, but it's either Molly or Mary. I used Molly in this because it was kind of half and half, so it was kind of a toss-up, but I used Molly. Roscoe's mother, Molly, was a woman of grace and warmth who bore the brunt of William's resentment. Her son's size, a whopping 13 pounds at birth, became a cruel joke in the household. William, skeptical of Roscoe's paternity, named him after a politician known for scandal, as if to brand the child with disgrace. Additionally, Roscoe's birth would be traumatic for Molly, resulting in chronic health problems that contributed to her death 11 years later. Despite the bleakness of his early years, Roscoe exhibited an innate talent for joy. By the time the Arbuckles relocated to Santa Ana, California, young Roscoe, only 2, had discovered his love for performance. Mimicking the exaggerated gestures of vaudeville comedians, he would entertain his family and neighbors, using laughter as a shield against the harshness of his father's ire. As Roscoe grew, so too would his passion for comedy. He'd have his first performance on stage with Frank Bacon's company at age 8 during their performance in Santa Ana. Tragedy would strike at age 11 when Roscoe's mother, Molly, passed away, leaving Roscoe to navigate life under the oppressive shadow of his father. Arbuckle's father had always treated him harshly and now refused to support him, so he got work doing odd jobs in a hotel, a place of transient faces and endless stories. There, he performed his first impromptu act, singing and dancing for guests. A professional singer heard him and invited him to perform in an amateur talent show. The show consisted of the audience judging acts by clapping or jeering, with bad acts pulled off the stage by a shepherd's crook. Arbuckle sang, danced, and did some clowning around, but he did not impress the audience. He saw the crook emerging from the wings and somersaulted into the orchestra pit in an obvious panic. The audience went wild, and he won the competition and began a career in vaudeville. The applause he received lit a fire within him, setting him on a path that would lead to fame and fortune. In 1904, at the age of 17, Roscoe Arbuckle's career took a significant step forward when Sid Grauman invited him to perform at the newly opened Unique Theater in San Francisco. This opportunity not only marked the beginning of Arbuckle's rise in entertainment, but also the start of a lasting friendship with Grauman. Soon after, Arbuckle joined the Pantages Theater Group, touring the West Coast. By 1906, he was performing at the Orpheum Theater in Portland, Oregon, as part of a vaudeville troupe led by Leon Earl. Arbuckle quickly became the main attraction, and the group took their act on tour. On August 6, 1908, Arbuckle married Minta Durfee, the daughter of Charles Warren Durfee and Flora Adkins. Minta, a petite and vivacious actress, frequently starred in early comedy films alongside Arbuckle. Their pairing often drew attention for its visual contrast, Minta's diminutive stature juxtaposed with Arbuckle's 300-pound frame. Despite this, their chemistry on screen was undeniable. Arbuckle later joined the Roscoe Burbank stock vaud... What are with these fucking names? Arbuckle later joined the Roscoe Burbank Stock Vaudeville Company, terrible fucking name, so long and garbage, embarking on a tour across China and Japan before returning to the United States in early 1909. So took this show on the fucking road. Out of the country even, that's crazy. Arbuckle's entry into film came in 1909, July of 1909, with the Seelig Polyscope Company, where he made his debut in a short titled Ben's Kid. Over the next few years, he appeared intermittently in Seelig one-reel films. By 1913, he transitioned briefly to Universal Pictures before finding his stride at Keystone Studios under the guidance of producer-director Max Sennett. Sennett, when recounting his first meeting with Arbuckle, noted that he skipped up the stairs as lightly as Fred Astaire, and that he, without warning, went into a feather-light step, clapped his hands, and did a backward somersault as graceful as a girl tumbler. At Keystone, Arbuckle became a prominent star in the widely popular Keystone Cops comedies. While his large size contributed to his comedic persona, Arbuckle was adamant about not relying on cliched physical gags, such as getting stuck in doorways, to draw laughs. His comedies are noted as rollicking and fast-paced, having many chase scenes and feature sight gags, a comedy cliché that has come to symbolize silent film-era comedy itself. The earliest known pie thrown in film was in the June 1913 Keystone one-reeler, A Noise from the Deep, starring Arbuckle and frequent on-screen partner Mabel Normand. In addition to his comedic talents, Arbuckle was an accomplished singer. His vocal abilities even caught the attention of renowned operatic tenor Enrico Caruso, who once told Arbuckle to give up this nonsense you do for a living. With training, you could become the second greatest singer in the world. Under Sennett's tutelage, Arbuckle became a household name. His persona as Fatty, a jovial, bumbling everyman, resonated with audiences. Though he disliked the nickname, he embraced it professionally, knowing it was central to his appeal. His slapstick antics, combined with his endearing vulnerability, made him one of the most beloved stars of the silent film era. In 1914, Paramount Pictures made the then unheard-of offer of $1,000 a day plus 25% of all profits and complete artistic control to make movies with Arbuckle and Normand. These movies were so lucrative and popular, that in 1918 they offered Arbuckle a 3-year, $3 million contract, which is equivalent to $61 million in 2023. So just as of a couple years ago, he would have gotten a contract that's worth more than $20 million a year, which is wild. Especially for 1918 times, that's absurd money. By 1916, Roscoe Arbuckle faced significant health challenges. A severe infection in his leg developed into a carbuncle so serious that doctors considered amputating the limb. Thankfully, Arbuckle avoided amputation, but he was prescribed morphine to manage the intense pain. This led to later accusations that he had developed an addiction to the drug. After his recovery, Arbuckle founded his own film company, Comedic, in collaboration with producer Joseph Schenck. Comedic became renowned for producing some of the finest short films of the silent era. However, in 1918, Arbuckle transferred his controlling interest in the company to his friend and collaborator Buster Keaton. Shortly thereafter, he accepted a lucrative $3 million deal with Paramount to produce up to 18 feature films over the next 3 years. So that's that three-year, $3 million deal that he took in 1918. Despite his professional success, Arbuckle harbored a deep dislike for his on-screen nickname, Fatty. The moniker had followed him since school days, something he described as inevitable. While audiences embraced nicknames like the Prince of Wales and the Balloonatic, Arbuckle saw Fatty as reductive, referring only to the character he portrayed rather than himself. In his films, Arbuckle's fatty persona was typically a naive, bumbling hayseed. On occasion, when he performed in drag, the character was named Miss Fatty, as in Miss Fatty's Seaside Lovers. Arbuckle discouraged anyone from addressing him as Fatty in his personal life. When someone ignored his wishes, he would pointedly reply, "I've got a name, you know." So obviously he doesn't want to be called Fatty. It's very diminishing, and I understand that. It's not the best nickname in the world, and outside of these films where you're considered quote-unquote fatty, definitely wouldn't want a bunch of people just calling me fucking Fatty on the side, which I get it. It's a nickname. A lot of people know you by that, but still not something you really want to be referred to as, especially if you're kind of self-conscious about your figure or something about yourself. If you don't like that aspect of yourself, or if you don't like just the nickname in general, I definitely understand why you wouldn't want to be called that. During such a high point in his life, his father, William Goodrich Arbuckle, would pass away in 1920 at the age of 70. Not to the despair of Roscoe, though, as he and his father weren't exactly an immaculate father-son duo. So, William Goodrich Arbuckle has passed on. His father and his mother have now passed away in 1920. He is riding the fucking high horse, though. He is in the middle of this $3 million deal. He is a millionaire. He made $1 million in 1918, made $1 million in 1919, and 1920. He is fucking riding that high horse. He is multiple $1 million. He is doing great. He has made so many fucking short films. And things are about to go pretty downhill for him pretty fucking fast after that. So let's get into this party and what happened with this woman, Virginia Rappe. On Labor Day, September 5th, 1921, Roscoe Arbuckle's life took a dramatic and unexpected turn. Despite suffering second-degree burns to his ass from a recent onset accident, Arbuckle drove to San Francisco with friends Lowell Sherman and Fred Fishback. The trio checked into the St. Francis Hotel, reserving 3 rooms. One for Arbuckle and Fishback, one for Sherman, and a third designated as a party suite. Several women, including 30-year-old aspiring actress Virginia Rappe, were invited to the gathering. During the festivities, Rappe fell gravely ill in Arbuckle's suite and was examined by the hotel doctor, who attributed her condition to intoxication and administered morphine for her symptoms. She was not hospitalized until 2 days later. By the time Rappe reached the hospital, her health had worsened, and on September 9, 1921, she died from peritonitis caused by a ruptured bladder. Rappe had a history of chronic urinary tract infections, which alcohol exacerbated. Following her death, Maud Delmont, Rappe's companion at the party, accused Arbuckle of raping her friend. This claim was bolstered by the police, who suggested that Arbuckle's weight caused Rappe's fatal injuries. Amid sensationalized media coverage, stories emerged of Arbuckle using a piece of ice and later evolving into a Coca-Cola bottle or a champagne bottle to harm Rappe. Witnesses, however, testified that Arbuckle had rubbed ice on Rappe's stomach to alleviate her pain, and Delmont eventually admitted to plotting an extortion scheme against him. Roscoe Arbuckle was arrested the day after Rappe's death and initially charged with murder, though the charge was later reduced to manslaughter. The ambitious San Francisco District Attorney, Matthew Brady, aggressively pursued the case, despite a lack of solid evidence. Brady pressured witnesses to provide false statements and initially relied on Delmont as a star witness. However, her inconsistent testimony and a letter admitting to the extortion plot undermined her credibility. Despite this, the judge determined that Arbuckle could face trial, reducing the charge to manslaughter after hearing that Rappe allegedly said, "Roscoe hurt me," on her deathbed. Arbuckle spent nearly 3 weeks in jail before being released on $5,000 bail, which obviously he had, or someone that knew him had. He had plenty of money, so $5,000 wasn't really much for him, but got out after about 3 weeks and is going to go to trial and have numerous trials, actually. So let's get going. He's been accused of murder, of manslaughter, of killing Virginia Rappe, and has some really shoddy fucking witnesses and testimonies and evidence against him, and they're really going to try to fucking pin this on him. Matthew Brady is really trying to bolster his name and make this a well-known, popular case, and really, put his name out there as being this awesome district attorney that, will take down even the biggest stars in Hollywood for the alleged shit that they do. So Roscoe Arbuckle's trial became a sensational media spectacle, amplified by the era's rampant yellow journalism. And yellow journalism is like using sensationalized headlines to make it seem even more crazy and ridiculous than it is. And it's a type of journalism that's quite often used nowadays. Attention-grabbing, ridiculous headlines to get you to read a story or click on an article. Definitely a very, very common thing nowadays, and was apparently very rampant back in the 1920s. So many newspapers, particularly those under William Randolph Hearst's nationwide chain, depicted Arbuckle as a depraved and immoral figure who used his physical size to prey on innocent women. And Hearst is such a douchebag, such an asshole, such a ridiculous fucking person who would do anything, would diminish anyone, would bring down anyone, and fucking throw dirt in anyone's name to make things better for himself. It's like he's the guy that fucking helped make weed illegal. Fucking douchebag ass William Hearst. I know that he ran a public smear campaign against hemp and against marijuana, cannabis, because he was more interested in his profits in the paper industry than, the freedom of the people to do whatever the fuck they want with. So, because hemp was poised to bring down paper as a cheaper alternative to paper, and hemp was gonna come in and take over his world, and he wasn't gonna fucking allow that. So he ran a smear campaign against cannabis and insisted that it was the fucking devil. And if you ever seen like Reefer Madness, he was definitely had a hand in that, and had a hand in a lot of things that had to revolve around the bringing down of cannabis, of hemp, and of a lot of shit to do with obviously bringing down Roscoe Arbuckle as well, because he really sensationalized these stories and made them even more ridiculous than they fucking were. Hearst's sensationalized stories reportedly earned his newspapers immense profits, with Hearst himself claiming the scandal sold more newspapers than when the Lusitania went down. The public's outrage, fueled by the exaggerated narratives, led morality groups to demand the death penalty for Arbuckle. This man may have accidentally killed a woman. They think he fucking murdered the shit out of her or something. He maybe, if anything, accidentally killed her, if he fucking had anything to do with it at all, and they want this man dead. Ridiculous. Ruining this fucking man's life. The trial commenced on November 14th, 1921, in San Francisco's City Courthouse. Arbuckle's defense was led by Gavin McNabb, Donovan McNabb's very, very, very great great uncle. He was a highly skilled local attorney and a prominent football player. He actually went on to win 16 Heismans and 17 Super Bowls, so that's pretty dope. Obviously, that's fucking nonsense, so don't believe any of that. But Gavin McNabb was his attorney, and it's spelled McNab, not two B's like Donovan. But he was a highly skilled local attorney. The principal witness for the prosecution was Zay Prevon, Zay Prevon, Z-E-Y, Zay Prevon, Prevon, whose testimony was critical to the district attorney Matthew Brady's case. From the outset, Arbuckle maintained his innocence, telling his estranged wife, Minta Durfee, that he had not harmed Virginia Rappe. Durfee, believing his account, appeared regularly in court to support him, despite the public's hostility. She was even shot at while entering the courthouse one time. Prosecution witnesses painted Arbuckle in a damning light. Model Betty Campbell testified that Arbuckle appeared unconcerned hours after the alleged assault. Nurse Grace Holtzson suggested that Rappe's injuries were consistent with assault, and criminologist Dr. Edward Heinrich presented fingerprint evidence allegedly proving that Rappe tried to escape only to be stopped by Arbuckle. However, under cross-examination, these accounts began to unravel. Campbell admitted that Brady had threatened her with perjury if she did not testify against Arbuckle. Dr. Heinrich's fingerprint findings were discredited when Why can't I fucking talk? Why can't I fucking speak? What is wrong with me? I can't fucking read words and say them out of my mouth afterwards. Dr. Heinrich's fingerprint findings were discredited when a hotel maid testified that the room had been thoroughly cleaned before any investigation. Dr. Arthur Beardsley, the hotel's examining physician, admitted that Rappe had not mentioned being assaulted during her treatment. Additionally, McNabb's questioning led Holtzson to concede that Rappe's injuries could have resulted from other medical conditions. On November 28th, Arbuckle himself took the stand, delivering calm and straightforward testimony. He recounted that he found Rappe ill in his bathroom and carried her to a bed to rest. When her condition worsened, he and other guests attempted to alleviate her symptoms, initially attributing her distress to intoxication. Arbuckle denied any inappropriate actions and emphasized that he had never acted improperly towards any women. Despite the defense's efforts, the jury deadlocked on December 4th, with a 10-2 split favoring acquittal, resulting in a mistrial. It later emerged that one juror, Helen Hubbard, had been adamantly prejudiced against Arbuckle and refused to consider the evidence impartially. Hubbard's husband's connections to the district attorney's office and her apparent bias during deliberations raised concerns about her suitability as a juror. The second trial began on January 11, 1922, with much of the same evidence and witnesses. However, this time, Zay Prevon testified that Brady had coerced her into providing false testimony. Another prosecution witness, Jesse Norgard, claimed Arbuckle had once sought a key to Rappe's dressing room, but was discredited when his criminal background and ulterior motives for testifying were revealed. So this guy came in and said some shit, and I'm sure that he was getting some sort of deal to make false testimony against Arbuckle. Fucking Matthew Brady would do anything to discredit Arbuckle and would throw him under the bus in any way fucking possible. The defense highlighted inconsistencies in the prosecution's case, including the disavowal of Heinrich's fingerprint evidence. Despite these efforts, some jurors misinterpreted the defense's decision not to call Arbuckle to the stand as a sign of guilt. After more than 40 hours of deliberation, the jury again deadlocked, with a 10-2 majority facing conviction this time, leading to a second mistrial. All right, first trial was out of the way, a 10-2 decision facing acquittal, so favoring acquittal, almost got it, and then with that he would go into a mistrial. Second trial came along, and with over 40 hours of deliberation, they would deadlock again, 10-2 also, but this time favoring conviction, not looking as good for him, but leading to a second mistrial. Now, time for a third trial. Third time's the fucking charm, right? Something will happen with this one. Let's see how it goes down. By the time the third trial commenced on March 13, 1922, the public's perception of Arbuckle had deteriorated significantly. Hollywood scandals and media narratives had cemented an image of debauchery and moral decay. Nevertheless, Arbuckle's defense took an aggressive approach, discrediting the prosecution witnesses and introducing evidence of Rappe's medical history and personal struggles. Notably, Zay Prevron was unavailable to testify, having fled the country. Arbuckle's own testimony once again emphasized his innocence. In a dramatic turn, the jury deliberated for only 6 minutes before delivering an unanimous not guilty verdict on April 12th. 5 of those minutes were spent drafting a formal apology to Arbuckle, stating, "We feel that a great injustice has been done to him. There was not the slightest proof adduced to connect him in any way with the commission of this crime. He was manly throughout the case and told a straightforward story on the witness stand, which we all believed." Despite his acquittal, Arbuckle's career and reputation were irreparably damaged. Will H. Hayes, head of the newly formed Motion Pictures Producers and Distributors of America, imposed a lifetime ban on Arbuckle's work, which was later rescinded due to public pressure. However, the damage was done. Most exhibitors refused to show his films, and many of his works were lost or shelved indefinitely. Arbuckle's financial troubles mounted as he faced enormous legal fees, forcing him to sell his home and his assets. Arbuckle attempted a comeback, aided and supported by friends like Buster Keaton, but industry resistance persisted. Plagued by alcoholism and public scorn, his efforts to rebuild his career faltered. Despite occasional creative contributions, Arbuckle's legacy remained overshadowed by the scandal, emblematic of the era's harsh judgment and the destructive power of sensationalized media. And that may be even more so nowadays. Sensationalized media can really fucking ruin a person because of how fast, how quickly it can be distributed nowadays. You put an article up and boom, boom, boom. If it's something popular, it can be spread to millions, hundreds of millions, fucking billions of people in such a short amount of time using, social media, using blogs, using websites, using the internet, using so many different things. AI nowadays, even you can use that, I'm sure, to fucking schedule something to go out. Just such an easy way for people to distribute yellow journalism and fake, false, sensationalized bullshit. All right, so been through 3 trials, finally was acquitted. He is not guilty of these charges, but his reputation has been completely diminished in Hollywood, and it will never come back to be the same, though he will have somewhat of a comeback, and the comeback is nice, but he is such a, not a martyr, but such an overshadowed name that people will not allow him to use his real name anymore. And anything that is attributed with his real name, his Roscoe Arbuckle name, is complete garbage to most people. They will not use it. They will not allow him to resume work under that name, so he turns to something different. Eventually, Roscoe Arbuckle resumed work in the film industry under the pseudonym William Goodrich, a name derived from his father's first name and middle name. The choice of alias has a humorous origin. Buster Keaton, known for his penchant for wordplay, jokingly suggested it was inspired by the satirical phrase, "Will be good." Will, W-I-L-L, B. Good. Which maybe it is, maybe it's not, maybe it was just a play off of his father's name because it's a name that no one fucking knew, so he could go on. It wasn't anything even close to his name. Roscoe Arbuckle, William Goodrich are so fucking far apart that it really separated him from his previous life that everyone really kind of blacklisted at this point. So, from 1924 to 1932, Arbuckle directed numerous comedy shorts under the William Goodrich pseudonym for Educational Pictures, featuring lesser-known comedians of the era. One notable experience involved actress Louise Brooks, who appeared in Wendy Riley Goes Hollywood in 1931. Brooks later recalled her impressions of Arbuckle. He made no attempt to direct this picture. He just sat in the director's chair like a dead man. He had been very nice and sweetly dead ever since the scandal that ruined his career. But it was such an amazing thing for me to come into this broken-down picture and to find my director was the great Roscoe Arbuckle. Oh, I thought he was magnificent in films. He was a wonderful dancer, a wonderful ballroom dancer in his heyday. It was like floating in the arms of a huge donut, really delightful. Among Arbuckle's more prominent works as a director was the Eddie Cantor feature Special Delivery in 1927, released by Paramount and co-starring William Powell and Jobina Ralston. Another high-profile project was The Red Mill in 1927, which you can actually watch on the Internet Archives if you're interested. It doesn't have Arbuckle in it, but he is the director. A Vehicle for Marion Davies. This film was a vehicle for Marion Davies. In addition to directing, Arbuckle contributed as an uncredited gag writer for the 1930 Wheeler and Woolsey military comedy Half Shot at Sunrise. In 1928, Arbuckle partnered with Dan Coombs, one of Culver City's early mayors, to reopen the Plantation Club near the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios on Washington Boulevard. Renamed Roscoe Arbuckle's Plantation Cafe, it launched on August 2, 1928. By 1930, Arbuckle had sold his stake, and the venue evolved into George Olson's Plantation Cafe, later becoming the Plantation Trailer Court, and eventually Foreman Phillips County Barn Dance. So definitely switched up a little bit at the end there. Plantation Cafe, Plantation Trailer Court, and then County Barn Dance. Very interesting. Arbuckle's personal life experienced turbulence during this period. In 1929, Doris Dean filed for divorce, citing desertion and cruelty. So, divorced from his second wife now, and it's kind of wild. Didn't know he was being cruel, but apparently he was a cruel fucking dude. On June 21st, 1932, Arbuckle would remarry Addie Oakley Dukes McPhail, later Addie Oakley Sheldon, who lived from 1905 to 2003 in Erie, Pennsylvania. In 1932, Arbuckle signed a contract with Warner Brothers to star under his own name in a series of 6 two-reel comedies filmed at the Vitaphone Studios in Brooklyn, New York. These films represent the only recorded samples of Arbuckle's voice, which displayed a pleasant second tenor range. These shorts featured silent film comedian Al St. John, who was Arbuckle's nephew, along with Lionel Stander and Shemp Howard. So here is an example of Roscoe Arbuckle's voice. This is going to be him in the Warner Brothers film called Into the Dough, where he portrays himself as a baker. This is him kind of first getting the job and stuff. It's he has a pretty good voice, and it's not something that you expect all the time from silent film era actors, but little bit of a good voice, and this is going to be him. Just a short little preview of what he sounds like in one of those Warner Brother Vitaphone films. This particular Vitaphone film, the Warner Brothers film In the Dough, was recorded in 1932 and I believe released in 1933, but early 30s, not too long before Roscoe Arbuckle would pass away, at the age of 46, I believe it was, or whatever. Not too long, though, not only within a year or two of Roscoe Arbuckle's passing is when this was recorded. Just a little bit of a taste of what his voice was like, so.
That situation, the position about, is this job still open?
Oh, you are a baker.
Yes, sir, and I sure need dough.
I got it. Well, there's the kitchen. You can start in right away.
Thanks. Yeah. What do you want me to do first?
Excuse me, sir. My name is Smith.
Smith, I'm glad to know you, Mr. Smith.
I'd like you to bake me a cake with a letter S on it.
S?
Yes. You know what an S is, don't you?
Oh, certainly. An S? Well, that's an I with a hook on each end. I beg your pardon.
Pardon me, but how long will it take?
Take a little time. I have to make it up spatial.
Well, that's quite all right. I'll wait.
Thank you.
I think you're nice.
So that was Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle's voice, and a little bit of him in a film, in one of those Vitaphone films here, and that's one of the only times that his voice has been recorded like that. Very interesting, very peculiar, and Now we're gonna go back into our story and back to the life of Roscoe Arbuckle. Notably, How You've Been included grocery store gags reminiscent of Arbuckle's earlier short, The Butcher Boy, in 1917. Despite their success in the United States, Warner Brothers faced challenges in the United Kingdom, where the British Board of Film Censors, referencing the decade-old scandal, refused to certify their first short, Hey Pop. So the British Board of Film Censors wouldn't allow these films that starred Arbuckle to be played, including these little shorts that included stupid gags like grocery store gags, would not allow them to be played or to be certified or to do anything with them, really, because of this decade-old scandal where Arbuckle was fucking acquitted. He was found not guilty, I guess not guilty, but like he's not technically not guilty, but he's not charged with anything. He was not found guilty of these crimes, but still referencing this decade-old scandal, they refused to certify these short films. Stupidest shit I've ever heard. Dumbest fucking things in the world. Stupid political fucking views. People really towering over Arbuckle and not allowing him to rise back up into stardom. On June 28th, 1933, Arbuckle completed filming In the Dough, the final installment of the Vitaphone series. The following day, he signed a contract with Warner Brothers to star in a feature-length film. That evening, Arbuckle celebrated his first wedding anniversary and the new contract with his friends. Reportedly, he remarked, "This is the best day of my life." Tragically, he suffered a heart attack later that night and passed away in his sleep at the age of 46. Per his wishes, his widow Addie had his body cremated. So Arbuckle has passed now. He was finally getting back into the swing of things. His stature in the public eye was coming back, and he was finally kind of bringing back, a second comeback in his career, really kind of bringing it up and, seeing stardom again. And he was having a great day, finally celebrated his wedding anniversary with Addie. He was really loving his life, said it's the best day of my life, and would tragically die in his sleep that night at the age of 46. So let's talk a little bit about Arbuckle's legacy, his redemption that he faced, some pop culture references, and then we'll get into our main marks and final takeaways. Arbuckle's life, career, and the scandal that plagued him have inspired a wide range of references in popular culture, from music and literature to film and television. In The Wild Party in 1975, directed by James Ivory, the character Jolly Grim, played by James Coco, was loosely inspired by Arbuckle. However, the film, based on Joseph Monaker March's 1926 poem, bears little resemblance to Arbuckle's real-life experiences. Ken Russell's Valentino features a caricatured portrayal of Arbuckle as Mr. Fatty, reinforcing the distorted public perception of him as a hedonistic celebrity. Damien Chazelle's Babylon in 2022 included the character Orville Pickwick, portrayed by Troy Metcalf, who is based on Arbuckle. Neil Sedaka's song Silent Movies in 1971 mentions Arbuckle alongside other silent film icons like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. NOFX's album Self-Entitled in 2012 includes the song I, Fatty, inspired by Arbuckle's life. Arbuckle is also the central figure in Jerry Stahl's novel I, Fatty, so the same name there, in 2004, which offers a fictionalized account of his life and career. Other literary works inspired by his story include The Day the Laughter Stopped by David Yallop, and Frame Up, The Untold Story of Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle by Andy Edmonds. The Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, in New York City paid tribute to Arbuckle with a retrospective in 2006, showcasing 56 of his surviving films. This event underscored his importance as a foundational figure in early Hollywood comedy. In 2021, the French graphic novel Fatty, Les Premiers Rois de Hollywood, by Nadar and Julian Frey, offered a richly illustrated account of Arbuckle's rise to fame and his tragic downfall. Additionally, several actors and directors have expressed interest in creating biographical films about Arbuckle. comedian Chris Farley, known for his physical comedy, hoped to play Arbuckle in what would have been his first dramatic role. Screenwriter David Mamet and actors like John Belushi and John Candy also considered such a project, but these plans were abandoned following their untimely deaths. Which is kind of weird, kind of an odd coincidence in some way. All these men had plans to do some sort of dramatic role and portray Arbuckle in one way or another, and their plans were all abandoned, ended up being abandoned due to their untimely deaths. So they would plan doing something with Arbuckle or playing Arbuckle or, dramatizing Arbuckle in some way, and then they would die. Mainly because of drugs, but, drugs probably were part of everyone's life at that time. Unfortunate. It would have been crazy to see Chris Farley play Arbuckle. I think it would have been an incredible role for him, honestly. I think that taking him out of the comedy-only type situations and putting him into something a little bit more serious or dramatic would have been something incredible for his career. That's sad. I'd love to see an Arbuckle film. There's not a ton out there other than books that I really found about him. So, and obviously his old films that you can find, but actually something that really portrays him that's full, color, full sound, fucking really tells his story. Nothing's out there that I could really find. So it would be awesome to see someone do that one day. The Arbuckle scandal has also inspired fictionalized accounts, such as Devil's Garden by Ace Atkins, which portrays Pinkerton detective Dashiell Hammett investigating the case. Arbuckle's name became synonymous with vintage Americana in the UK, where the themed restaurant chain, Fatty Arbuckle's, paid homage to him. In more recent references, Hacks in Season 3, a fictional Arbuckle biopic, becomes a central plot point, with Christopher Lloyd playing a fabricated grandson of Arbuckle. He never had kids, so he doesn't have any grandkids. He was playing a fabricated grandson in this Hacks Season 3. In Curb Your Enthusiasm, Season 12, Episode 8, references to Arbuckle in a conversation between Larry David and Conan O'Brien occur. Despite the damage caused by the scandal surrounding his life, Roscoe Arbuckle's legacy has endured through his films, posthumous recognition, and numerous references in pop culture. His story serves as both a cautionary tale about the perils of fame and a testament to the enduring power of comedy as an art form. Arbuckle remains a figure of intrigue, inspiring creative works that reimagine his life, career, and the scandal that overshadowed his immense contributions to early cinema. Now, with Roscoe passed away, and all of Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle's life pulled out from beneath the shadows, let's dance and sing our way today into our main marks before finishing up with our final takeaway. Alright, so main marks. Number 1, Roscoe's size, a whopping 13 pounds at birth, became a cruel joke in the household. William, his father, skeptical of Roscoe's paternity, named him after a politician known for scandal, as if to brand the child with disgrace. Number 2, tragedy struck at age 11 when his mother, Molly, or Mary, passed away, leaving Roscoe to navigate life under the oppressive shadow of his father. Arbuckle's father had always treated him harshly and now refused to support him, so he got work doing odd jobs in a hotel. Number 3, his comedies are noted as rollicking and fast-paced, having many chase scenes and feature sight gags. Arbuckle was fond of the pie in the face, a comedy cliché that has come to symbolize the silent film era comedy itself. The earliest known pie thrown in a film was in the June 1913 Keystone one-reeler, A Noise from the Deep, starring Arbuckle and frequent on-screen partner Mabel Normand. Number 4, on Labor Day, September 5th, 1921, Roscoe Arbuckle's life took a dramatic and unexpected turn. Accompanied by his friends Lowell Sherman and Fred Fishback, Arbuckle traveled to San Francisco and checked in at the St. Francis Hotel. They would reserve 3 rooms, one for Arbuckle and Fishback, another for Sherman, and a third designated as a party suite. Among the invited guests was Virginia Rappe, a 30-year-old aspiring actress. During the lively gathering, Rappe became severely ill while in Arbuckle's suite. The hotel doctor examined her, attributing her symptoms to intoxication and administering morphine to ease her condition. Despite this, Rappe's health deteriorated over the next 2 days. She was eventually hospitalized, but succumbed to peritonitis caused by a ruptured bladder on September 9, 1921. In the wake of her death, Maud Delmont, Rappe's companion at the party, accused Arbuckle of sexually assaulting her friend. The accusations gained traction when the police alleged that Arbuckle's weight had caused Rappe's fatal injuries. Sensationalized media reports fueled rumors, including claims that Arbuckle had harmed Rappe with a piece of ice, which later evolved into lurid stories involving a Coca-Cola or champagne bottle. Witnesses at the party, however, testified that Arbuckle had merely used ice to soothe Rappe's discomfort. Adding to the controversy, Delmont later confessed to scheming an extortion plot against Arbuckle. He had all this money, he signed this multi-million-dollar deal, they're trying to extort fucking money from him. Despite the murky circumstances, Arbuckle was arrested the day after Rappe's death and initially charged with murder. The charge was subsequently reduced to manslaughter, igniting one of Hollywood's most infamous scandals. Number 5. Arbuckle would face 3 separate trials. The first 2 resulted in mistrials, and finally, an acquittal. But, despite his acquittal, Arbuckle's career and reputation were irreparably damaged. Will H. Hayes, head of the newly formed Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America, imposed a lifetime ban on Arbuckle's work, which was later rescinded due to public pressure. However, the damage had been done. And number 6, new information. Go and watch one of Roscoe Arbuckle's countless number of movies he made. There are numerous examples of them out there on the internet. Whether you find them on YouTube or in the Internet Archives or somewhere different altogether, the interest and appeal of some of these films can become quite apparent. They're definitely interesting, a lot of slapstick comedy and stupid gags and stuff like that, but I can say the same for the other hand as well, though, as watching some of these silent films nearly put me in a lull. Pretty much put me to sleep watching some of these. Pretty fucking boring, especially the ones that are truly, truly silent, don't even have music or anything. Hard to watch more than, 15, 20 minutes, and thankfully, that's all that most of them run is like 20-ish minutes or so. But a few of the ones I watched in preparation for this episode are Fatty and Mabel's Simple Life from 1915, Coney Island from 1917, and The Garage from 1920. All 3 were directed by and featured Arbuckle. All right, and that's going to be it for the main mark, so let's finish up this episode with our final takeaway. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was one of the earliest pioneers of American slapstick comedy, whose influence on the genre remains significant. Despite his immense contributions to early cinema, his career was overshadowed by the scandal surrounding the death of actress Virginia Rappe. This controversy tarnished his reputation, leading to the destruction or neglect of many of his films, either as a result of the studio's fear of backlash or due to the broader lack of preservation efforts during the silent film era. Nevertheless, Arbuckle's talent and impact as a performer and director have not been entirely lost to time. By the early 21st century, some of his surviving works, especially shorts co-starring Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, have been restored and made available to modern audiences through DVD releases and theatrical screenings. These efforts have allowed newer generations to appreciate Arbuckle's comedic artistry and his formative role in shaping slapstick humor. Arbuckle's contributions to film were formally recognized in 1960 when he was posthumously awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, located at 6701 Hollywood Boulevard. This belated acknowledgement reflected a growing appreciation for his work, independent of the controversy that defined much of his public image. All right, and that's Fatty Arbuckle, Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, all done up. He had an amazing career. He rose so quickly through the ranks. It took less than 20 years. He went from working at a hotel, doing odd jobs, singing and dancing when the guests were around, to becoming a millionaire. He got a multi-million-dollar contract in 1918 and was set to, just keep on rising from there. He would begin directing and starring in his own films. He did such an amazing thing with his comedic artistry, and it would all be taken away from him when he was accused of murdering actress Virginia Rappe. Beside the accusation, Matthew Brady, the district attorney in San Francisco, really ran a smear campaign, and that coupled with the newspaper headlines ran by people such as William Hearst really were the downfall of Roscoe Arbuckle. And it's super unfortunate. It's very sad to see that a man with such talents was torn apart due to false accusations. And that's going to be it for Roscoe Arbuckle. I really appreciate you joining me today. Please, if you love this episode, take a moment to rate and review. Go to Apple Podcast or Amazon Music or Spotify or wherever you listen and give a rating and review. I really appreciate it. If you want to follow the show, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Patreon. There are updates every week on Instagram. Patreon will start getting updated again in February with new episodes every other week. Those are 15 to half an hour long episodes, just depending on exactly what the topic is and how long I get to research. But please go check those out. Your support helps more than anything. And to spread the show, I need your support. I need those ratings. I need those reviews. So if you like the show at all, please share it. Please say a good word. Please give a good rating. I appreciate the fuck out of all of you. Thank you for doing that. And now, let's take a look to next week. Next week, here on Beneath the Shadows, we will be looking at the Hall Mills murders, a 1920 murder case that involved Edward Wheeler Hall, an Episcopal priest, and Eleanor Mills, a member of his choir with whom he was having an affair. Both would be murdered on September 14th, 1922, so we're headed back to the 1920s. We're headed back to fucking pre-Prohibition era. We're headed back to pre-goddamn Great Depression. We are heading to the 1920s once again next week here on Beneath the Shadows. So don't miss it. Please check back next Wednesday and every Wednesday for another episode of Beneath the Shadows. But for now, remember, stay safe, stay smart, stay fucking awesome, stay humorous, and enjoy your life. Don't get caught up in any stupid scandals. Don't go murdering anyone. And don't accuse anyone falsely of murder or manslaughter. And have yourself a great fucking week, everyone. Peace out.
Watch where you go, 'cause you never may know. Coming out from below, from beneath the shadow, the darkness will grow, the spirits and ghosts, and only one thing's for show, just beneath the shadow. Watch where you go, 'cause you never may know. Coming out from below, from beneath the shadow,